Alright, look, we've been through this before. You know those animated cat shorts you've been seeing on your timeline recently? Well, they're not cats. Much like with poetry sites, I got interested and decided to delve deeper. And it turns out there are some strange things going on. These shorts made by Hosalt follow a group of 7 cats, though the majority of the channel has shorts built around these silly, often meme-ish scenarios, akin to something like Chicken Nugget. Although much looser with its definitions of lore and not lore, much like Chicken Nugget, if you think too much about it, you might just find consistency and a sad story. Specific characters with very specific traits and abilities. A sad backstory, a weird detail, and you might try to brush this off as not that serious or just memes, stop looking into it. You're probably right. We'll be going over all of the shorts from top to bottom, though just to mention right off the bat, I will be skipping over the houseboat shorts as they don't add anything after their initial appearances, meaning we'll be focusing entirely on the cats. It's really hard to find these cats' names, however with a lot of trial and error I was able to find them all, so I'll just list them all off here so it doesn't get too confusing. First of all, we have our 2 main cats, Curry, this calico one that's very playful, meme-ish, and filled with no thoughts, brain, empty energy, and Sig, the black cat who's far more intelligent, loves to cosplay, but is stoic and relatively emotionless. As for side characters, we have Salt himself, the klutzy owner of the cats, Half, the white multicolored cat who's focused on being cute and is scared of nearly everything, Joe, the fluffy cat filled to the brim with high optimism and a deep lung for Among Us. Technically their canonical name is Amogus, but they refer to them as Joe in the past short, so I'm just gonna take that as my out so I don't have to say Amogus all day. We have Salgu, the Sphinx cat who has a peculiar interest in humanity to the point that they're most commonly seen standing on 2 legs. Loaf, the orange and white cat that loves bread so much they can turn into it and its many forms at will. And lastly, Maya, the yellow cat that the mice simp over. Trust me, we will get to that. With the characters over with, it's about time that we got into the first and longest arc of the series, the casual arc. This is more towards the beginning of the channel when Salt first arrived and started posting and animating the cats. So there are a handful of inconsistencies as Salt figures out exactly how these characters interact and what their deal is. The first video with the cats is the short Sad Real Cat Dance Meme. It's a pretty basic video following the sad cat dance animation trend, just with a real sad cat like the title suggests. A mouse pulls out a cucumber and torments the cat as they're forced to stay on 2 legs. This video is pretty different to the Curry we'll see in later shorts, though I feel like that's mostly due to this being the first short with the cat. Chances are they didn't even know it'd be a staple of the channel at this point. The next short we see is another basic one. We have Loaf turning into a loaf upon being heated by a space heater. And then another one, but slightly more interesting, we see our first more official appearance of Sig, wearing a Wednesday cosplay and dancing. Although this is the only video where they wear this for the whole thing, we'll see it consistently referenced from here on out, especially in later arcs. We'll see another quick one, this time with our first appearance of Salgu, though something you're gonna notice with almost every single appearance of Salgu is that Salgu is always standing up on their hind legs in nearly every appearance. Although they start down here, they end dancing on top of Salt, though this will only get more and more prevalent as time continues. Speaking of Salgu, we'll see this far more blatantly in Toka Toka Dance, with a very human dance from his part. We end on this picture of them all together, though ignore this gray guy on the top left, he never appears again. In Excuse Me Bra Mouse, we see the return of Mouse. Though here we see the extreme disregard the cats have for the mice, not even in like a prey-predator way, but more in a higher class, lower class way, something which will be brought up later down the line. Curry knocks over the mouse and their cheese, which leads to them retaliating with an impossibly large cucumber. Clap Clap Shuffle Dance brings us our first Maya appearance. Maya is pretty similar to Salgu, in which they also stand on their hind legs at all times, though they seem to have a strong interest in very show-offy things. Whereas Salgu stands on their hind legs all the time, Maya only seems to appear from the perspective that Maya is dancing or singing to the song themselves, making them kind of like a model of sorts, rather than how Salgu does it more for their own preference and interest in humanity. Sigma Cat Run Run Challenge gives us our first look into how the cats interact with their owner, Salt, which as you can expect is the traditional cat reaction when they see a box. We finally start getting into the real lore at You Like the Snow, where we get a peek at Maya's connection with the mice. Maya is enjoying the snow and the mouse is sinking into the depths, where given how tiny their body is, they could reasonably die. They panic and Maya just kinda mocks them.
Can you say snow?
This power dynamic is important for later, so keep it in mind because we're gonna keep seeing it. And so we reach the end of the casual arc at Strike a Taunt, where we see Curry, Sig, and Maya all at the same time. We see multiple random poses akin to taunts you'd see in Pizza Tower, including that Wednesday costume again, though one of them changes midway to the video. Maya's adding a mouse. We see Maya adoring a mouse, who's subsequently bowing, before being terrified as they become basically the Eye of Sauron. In fact, this is so important that they don't even change it once it changes the Eye of Sauron one, just getting closer until it finally switches away. This is where things start to get weird, and we start getting introduced to the more anomalous, abnormal aspects of these cats. Sus Keyboard brings us to our good old friend Joe. First official appearance if you don't count Toka Toka. As they press on a keyboard which gets slower and slower until it reveals that it's been doing the Among Us theme for every note. For every press, you can see their face get darker and darker, fully aware what they are walking towards, suggesting that this might be the thing that corrupted them into their Among Us obsession. Stray Cat and Block Blast and ad placement, so I won't be taking into account anything they explicitly do into the lore, but there are a few other details that seem to be canon as they carry on to other parts. Amongst these, there are two parts to note. On a tray of food where they discover Block Blast, we can see a shaking tied up mouse, and the other more interesting thing is that Salt appears to be a fisherman, and does not take kindly to Curry stealing his catches. This could be a new character, but when not angry, they have the exact same eyes as Salt, and of course the abnormal head shape, so I'll be referencing them as one and the same character. Back to the important stuff, we get a pretty big, if not the only big backstory drop in Them Changes. It's here that we learn more about Sig and why their heart is missing, basically telling us why they're so stoic all the time and how they're in desperate search for their heart. Interestingly though, although it's understandable to show their heart physically for a symbolic interpretation, the heart is shown with stitches bleeding, which of course is an extra hard mile to go for a silly cat short, don't you think? Liquids are hard! Not to mention we get a lot of afterlife imagery as we see Sig die, we see all the other cats as angels like twice, and other similar imagery. We are shown Sig seemingly gave their heart to another cat who threw it away, but soon after we get an interesting line. I've been traveling for so long, I don't think I can hold on. Where were you when I needed you the most? Now I'm sitting here with a black hole in my chest, a heartless broken mess. Though I need to immediately mention, last time I pointed out lyrics in a short, I got a baffling amount of comments saying that the lyric was just part of the song, which, yeah. The point of me pointing out the lyrics both here and in the Pochi video is because of the timing. Oftentimes these shorts show something specific during these lyrics that gives it another layer of meaning through the use of the song. So back when I was mentioning how in Pochi Science when they're animifying Grimace, it says you can't go back, I was pointing out how they lined it up for the song to have that line right as Grimace is turned to an anime girl. In that same way, here, Sig during these lines is shown and implied to have been a stray, and after a while the heart breaks entirely, rendering it impossible to find. But the question lies with who was that cat in the middle? And more specifically, was it actually about love? Because I might have an idea who that mysterious cat was and why they threw Sig's heart away. But first, we have more shorts to go through. Salkyu's most prominent short is Hello Every Nyan, where they show just how much they like replicating human norms and how odd they are compared to most other cats. And of course, Joe's there doing Among Us things. The short Wosing She returns with Maya and the Mice, seemingly in a positive manner. Here we do get some minor hints as to what I was hinting at earlier, as the lyrics translate to My family's name is She, showing that Maya has some form of inherent power akin to a family name, likely the fact that they're a cat. As it pans to the mouse, they dance as they say, regardless of when we meet, it will be my pleasure, showing that these mice are like servants to Maya, and likely the other cats given how they're treated. Plus we know that Hosalt did understand what these lyrics were saying when this was animated, as when it shifts to the other more fancy mouse, they have a calligraphy brush as they say their writing speed is as fast as a galloping horse, with a horse symbol moving or galloping across the top of the screen. We finally get to see Half again in Cat's negotiation method, as well as confirmation that Salt being a fisherman isn't just something for the sponsor sections and is actively canon. Here, they use their cuteness to get a hard-earned fish of Salt, much to their dismay. Here's another important one. In Sunmi Stranger, we see 2 Sigs. Just in this first frame, you not only have 2, there's also these 2 eyes, which are Sig's exact colors, as none of the other cats have yellow eyes. Upon being put into a machine, the other Sig is brought to life, and upon it hitting night, they look delightfully devilish, Seymour. Though right in the end, they fade to dust. It's definitely important for something, but I'll get into my many theories at the end once we have all the pieces. Droopy Slide Cat is another longer one, but I checked through all 4 minutes and I couldn't find anything new. It's mostly just reused assets. Cart Cat, however, is basically just showing here's all their official names and genders. I'm gonna be honest though, I was halfway into coming up with my own names based on the shorts before finally finding this short, so I'm not sure why this is the only area you can find their actual names. I thought Sig's actual name was Sunmi because of the last short, man. You're out here giving us theorists a headache. Raising a cat for the first time, the cat, is a silly little meme where Salt forcefully puts a pony outfit on them and does that amazing digital circus deranged smile meme that Pomni does when they realize they're stuck in the first episode. Could have a deeper meaning or could just be a meme. Either way, we'll move on. Here's the one that got me introduced to the series. Noisy neighbor. We have a mouse, their sleeping is being interrupted, they check out the mouse hole, and the mouse tries to be reasonable and just ignore it, but in Noisy Neighbor 2, Curry literally rips the top of their house off, showing that they're just tormenting them on purpose to make sure they aren't getting any sleep, even when they're taking the most passive route. That's like if on finals week you hear one of your neighbors blaring bad music, you try to go to bed anyways, and upon you going back to bed, a giant rips open your roof and starts blaring KSI's The Thick of It on their phone. Like, if you're gonna torture me, can you please just kill me? I have a hard enough time sleeping as is. Like, I go to sleep, I get a full 12 hours of bed, wake up, still tired. You don't need to blare music at me to keep me up when my body and my intrusive thoughts do it for me. In More Cat Please, we're shown that Curry can also duplicate themselves, just in a less show-offy way. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for. How a cat works, we learn something rather peculiar. While Curry is being held longwise, they suddenly go into 3D and see the inner workings of Curry, showing that Curry is canonically either a robot or a cat cyborg, as they use their robot innards to rocket off into space. I know I'm saying a lot, but this will also be very important later on. I hope you don't miss that old 3D model, because immediately afterwards we're given another completely different look at Curry in 3D. But also, Curry is the only character that's been able to make the jump from 2D to 3D, which could indicate that they're special, or they're just showing off a cool 3D model they made. Who knows? The immediate next short shows more of this, though not in 3D, as Curry is shown in several different art styles, not typical of the series. Poke Dance doesn't show much, just another example of Maya and the mice dancing together, and now we have another important short, Bread. Remember Loaf? Remember how they can turn into a loaf of bread because haha, cats when lying down look like bread, oh my god. No, it's lore time! One of the first things we see are these legs and shoes. Originally, I assumed it was bread shapeshifting to a human form, but that's far from the case. Remember that short from not that long ago? You know, the one where Curry turns into several art styles. One of the things Curry turns into is a human with a light skin tone. This human, on the other hand, has pure white skin, similar to Salt, down to the FF. But we know it's not Salt because even when wearing clothing, Salt doesn't ever wear pants or shoes. Wouldn't it be much easier and less time extensive to not animate clothing over it so it'd be more recognizable as Salt? It would have a lot less detail. Well, it would make sense to add it if this is supposed to be a brand new character. We see Loaf turn to a variety of breads, from loaves to bagels to just slices, which seems to indicate that Loaf can turn to any gluten-based food item. Though as we see immediately afterwards, dough counts. Dough can easily be separated, and yet Loaf can still reform themselves, which also implies the whole Ant-Man conundrum thing is possible with Loaf here. You know, the plot hole any actually types like myself bring up when asking why, if Ant-Man can shrink to any size, they don't just enter the body of whomever they want to eliminate and then just return to normal size while inside them, killing them instantly. Because Loaf can turn to dough too, theoretically, should Loaf ever gain murderous intent in at least one of those two brain cells, Loaf could just turn into dough, be dispersed into a whole set of cupcakes at a bake sale or something, and then just cause an instant mass-scale massacre at the nearby orphanage. Returning to the video, we can also see them get burnt in their bread form. This isn't the first time we've seen how resistant to heat they are, as their first appearance has them laying on a space heater, which can get as hot as 120 Fahrenheit or 50 Celsius. Though inside of an oven can get much hotter, as you can imagine. The optimal heat for bread making is around 475 Fahrenheit or 247 Celsius. So basically, Loaf is completely fire resistant through the power of love. Bread. Oh, here's a weird one. 1,000 Miles cat has Curry driving a car. Given the stretchy powers we've seen other cats have, their bottom half must be pretty stretched down to reach those pedals. Either way though, Curry sings a meowed version of Making My Way Downtown while driving with Ghost from Call of Duty. They're not even animated or anything. I didn't edit this. You can check for yourself. Curry is canonically friends with Ghost from Call of Duty. Or at the very least, acquainted enough to be comfortable letting them drive despite being a literal cat. Another possible lore moment, we see Maya and Joe interact for the first time, in which Maya sings that Joe is an alien, and coupled with the space aesthetic and Maya being on a planet, wearing a sci-fi earpiece, it seems pretty much canon. Especially with Joe flipping upside down to shoot disco colors from their behind, which is a pretty far cry from the other weird things these cats have been shown to do. Fish Thief and Block Blast gives us even more info on Curry's mental state and how uncat-like they are. Cats are very notoriously hateful of water, but Curry jumps into it like it's nothing when they're being chased on their heist. They only freak out when they see a shark. And with that, we've reached our final and current arc, the Mouse War. It all starts at the tiny mouse wizard is trying to catch the cat, where this mouse wizard, for the first time in any of the mice we've seen, where mice are not allowed to initiate an attack unless they have been attacked first, and even then I've never been allowed to do anything past wielding a cucumber menacingly while the cat knowingly takes hostages, the wizard bonks the cat a few times on the snout. Nothing bad, just harmless fun, but unfortunately, they've started something that can never be undone. Okay, so it turns out I accidentally forgot one somehow. Not sure how, given this explains the importance of the Mouse Wizard video, but basically, because the Mouse Wizard was able to easily get away with bonking the cat, this caused the next video titled Mouse Music. We see the start of the mouse uprising, as the mice realize they don't need to be pushed around anymore. This is only a small clip, but basically we just see our main mouse dancing as they easily eat the cat's food because Half is a coward. They just cry. That's it. That's the video. Though it does make sense as it ties into our next video, because from this point onwards, the mice are actually learning to fight back with more than just cucumbers. Mouse versus cat starts to show even further this escalation as the other mice finally start fighting back. It starts with a simple fly swatter and a cucumber, but evolves into giant objects that could very easily crush one another. A keyboard, a mousetrap, a TV. Though eventually, because it's another Block Blast commercial, this leads to them accidentally killing Salt. Their owner died by their simple war. And how does Curry respond? They just stare blankly with red eyes. They aren't even highlights or anything, they're dead center. Almost like when a robot goes rogue in media. See, I told you, they're canonically a robot now. Just for extra context, the mouse also gets red eyes, but they're very clearly highlights, reflecting from Curry's glowing red eyes. Notice how below there's white reflecting? Very different. The last important short as of writing this is Half is a kitty, which just shows Half doing regular cat things and just generally being cute and scared of everything. At the very end though, we see a brand new character, this Parasol Girl, which might be Half's owner? Though I guess we'll have to wait and see if she returns soon. That and how the rest of the Mouse War pans out. We've only gotten a few shorts showing it, but from what it looks like, it might be expanding to something much larger. Though now that we've gone over all we can, it's time for the theory I've been building up towards. From what we've seen, these cats are not normal cats by any means. In fact, Curry is at the very minimum part robot, Joe is strongly implied to be an alien, and Sig has a bunch of weird dead man walking motifs to them that have relatively gone unexplained, which is why I think these cats are all from different experiments. Joe, of course, is an alien, either in cat form, body snatcher style, or they're an alien implanted to the body of a cat, hence all the weird anomalous floaty stuff they can do. And of course their admiration of Among Us. Curry, as stated previously, is part robot. However, I think taking into account Sig's backstory, they have a pretty deep connection there. Specifically in that Curry is the person Sig thinks threw their heart away, but not necessarily in a romantic way. You see, Curry towards the start showed more typical cat behavior, but after a certain point became a lot more no thoughts head empty-ish with time, just dancing or doing whatever, especially in regards to forgetting how to cat, like jumping straight into water without caring, which is why I think that this is the Curry Sig used to know, back when Sig was a stray. However, at some point, Curry was taken in to be experimented on, and given these robot features, or turned fully into a robot, take your pick. Unfortunately though, these experiments altered their brain to such an extent that when Sig finally found them, Curry didn't remember them or their friendship, thus making Sig think that he threw their heart away. way. Having spent so long searching for his heart though, searching for Curry, this led to him dying as a stray, hence Sig being dazed in the trash. This could be due to starvation or thirst, as both can cause confusion and nausea, only to be brought back by the very same experimenters, just without their heart. In fact, the short Sunmi stranger from earlier might be an exact reenactment of what they did to him after he died. So basically, Curry and Sig were strays together, good buds, but then Curry was taken away to be experimented on. When they're turned into a robot, they lose parts of themselves and no longer remember Sig by the time Sig finally finds them. Distraught, Sig dies a stray, but the experimenters bring him back like in Sunmi Stranger. Okay, so update time, I have 2 additions with this part of the theory since editing. First of all, I was wrong about it being non-platonic. As I was editing this video, a new set of shorts was posted. Most of them aren't lore important, except for Apt Apt, which has Sig and Curry together dancing in some dapper garb, though during this it puts a pretty heavy emphasis on Curry having a crush on Sig, like love hearts and everything. Which, if my theory is true, this is setting up such good angst. Because now the story is that after Curry was turned into a cyborg and forgot Sig, Curry fell in love with him again, but doesn't know that he lost his heart, which is just so tragic. Though this does semi-confirm that Curry is a cyborg, not a robot. Either that or they made the AI capable of love for some reason. Another little thing I noticed while editing is that back to the Them Changes video where we learned Sig's backstory, after the heart was broken, but before it broke entirely when Sig was still searching for it, one of the imagery we see is the heart encased in ice. Oftentimes in surgery, the replacement organ is stored in ice before surgery to preserve the tissue and prevent cell damage before it's transplanted into its new patient, which could be an interesting parallel for my theory. This heart is the heart implanted into him to resuscitate him and bring him back, leaving him cold-hearted. And if you want the bonus, the cups we see look suspiciously like those bedside pitchers filled with pellet ice that patients get, just without the handle. This hospital ice being used explicitly when you can't have food or water, like in some surgeries. Just wanted to point it out. Back to past me. The others don't have as destructive ones, as Loaf is just Loaf. But the others have some reasonable concepts as to what their specific experiment was. For example, Salkyu could be a cat that was given a human brain, hence why they prefer standing on 2 legs and constantly mimic human behaviors. Some part of his mind instinctually craves it because mentally, he's not a cat like the rest. Same could be said about Maya, who also seems very aware and person-like, though it's clearly not done the same way as Salkyu. They don't seem to be doing it because they're interested in acting human, but it seems to be more like they started human. Out of all the characters, they're the ones shown the most to be actively singing, unlike characters like Curry who sing meowed versions of the songs. Maya dances far more complexly and has an understanding of how to use the mice and her power dynamic to their advantage. Because of that, I think that Maya might have been a human whose mind was directly implanted into a cat. Likely willingly, as they seem to like it. But then again, who wouldn't want to sleep all day and not have to worry about taxes or the job market? Like, sign me up. The experiment theory also matches up with explaining why there are so many mice that the cat all seem in agreement not to hurt, and that the mice seem confident enough to be around to not see themselves in immediate danger should they retaliate. It's because they're experiments too. They're lab mice that the scientists would likely punish the cats for eating. Half is the only one I'm certain has not been experimented on yet, as they haven't done anything abnormal for a cat as far as I'm aware. And with the recent recognition on the channel, especially with that last short, I wonder if they'll be getting experimented on soon. Or maybe they'll be safe given my other question. What about Salt and the other humans? Well, there's 2 different possibilities. Either they're with the science group and meant to keep an eye on them, or more likely, once the experiments were done, the cats were put up for adoption, where they were likely then adopted by people like Salt. Loaf, of course, was adopted by the mysterious bread girl, Half was adopted by Parasol Girl, and Curry, Sig, and Salkyu were all adopted by Salt, as we see them all in the same room for multiple shorts. The reason other cats appear, but just not as often as they're main to, is because when animals are brought in as a group and adopted, they're usually given the information of other owners so that pets can visit their quote-unquote friends in the future, meaning they're all visiting when other cats like Loaf or Joe appear. Speaking of, we don't currently know of Joe or Maya's owners, if they have any, but it seems to be pretty consistent. It would also explain why Half isn't anomalous. Maybe Half was just a random cat they adopted, and they just happen to visit too because Salt and her are friends. Either way though, oh, Salt, your cats are weird. You should take them to the vet, because they might be aliens. robots or very, very depressed. Okay, bye!